Hi, my name is Aaron Gerds. I'm the editor-in-chief of ASH Clinical News. I'm on site here in Orlando at the ASH annual meeting, and it's my absolute and utter pleasure to have Dr. Jain with me to discuss the Cadence 101 study. Welcome, Dr. Jain.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so the Cadence 101 study, looking at a BTK degrader.
Right.
So what is a BTK degrader?
So I think this is a new class of molecules which have come about in the last few years, right? So we all are familiar with BTK inhibitors. They're already FDA approved. We're using them for the last decade or so, which inhibit BTK to maybe 95%. But the degraders are a class of molecules which just deplete the entire protein. They just degrade the entire protein. So you have 100% inhibition of the BTK. And and these drugs came about. There are several of them in clinical trials right now with publicly reported data. And these are all oral drugs, like we have the inhibitors. And they really are becoming very promising drugs in the field with very specific inhibition or depletion of BTK to say. And we're really starting to see some encouraging clinical activity, with these drugs.
Yeah. So in the Cadence 101 study, they looked at patients who were, had at least a couple lines of therapy.
Right.
What normally would you do for a patient who has CLL in that situation who would have been otherwise eligible for the Cadence study?
Yeah, so these are the patients who probably had prior covalent BTK inhibitor, like Ibrutinib, or Ibrutinib, very likely would have exposure to venetoclax-based drug or venetoclax or BCL2 inhibitor to say. And so there, the option would be, should we enroll them with Pirtobrutinib, because that's a commercially available drug. And I should say many of these patients in the trial also had received a Pirtobrutinib-like drug as well, and then they failed that. And then there comes the degrader. So not everyone had failed Pirtobrutinib, but most of the patients have failed or were exposed to either a BTK inhibitor, standard BTK inhibitor, approved BTK inhibitor, and venetoclax. So I think that's the patient population which is quite appropriate to study with these, with 2 to 3 prior lines of therapy with this new kind of a target.
Yeah. So in this study, obviously there were a number of responses seen.
Yeah.
What were your impressions of the toxicity profile of the degrader?
So the toxicity profile of degrader, it seems very favorable, I would say. The most common side effect they have seen or reported is neutropenia, grade 3 or 4 neutropenia, maybe about 20% range. Very limited incidence or low incidence of atrial fibrillation, very low incidence of major bleeding episodes. So I think some of that BTK side effects we talk about, maybe they are there, but at a much lower frequency, it appears. Mm-hmm. Again, the argument here is that these are new trials, really short follow-up. Maybe there will be more with time. Again, that remains to be seen. But I will say the follow-up for some of these trials, we are getting 2 or 3 years of treatment, and it looks pretty safe to use. But yes, it's not free of BTK side effects, but at a much lower rate.
To kind of build on that, what you just told us. So you got a drug that's degrades 100%, gets 100% rid of the BTK, and with a safety profile that might be pretty darn good relative to like BTK inhibition. Right. Where do you? I know there's ongoing phase 2, phase 3 trials. Where do you see this strategy of degradation fitting in the treatment? Do you see it more in like after original BTK inhibitors, or do you see it like in frontline? I'm talking like 5-10 years in the future.
Well, I think that's not even 5-10 years in the future. I think things are being planned for.
In the myeloid world, it takes forever. So I have a very long horizon.
But I think things are moving fast in the CLL field. So certainly there are phase 3. There's already an announced phase 3 of Pirtobrutinib versus head-to-head comparison with the BTK degrader from BeiGene or B1, and there are other phase 3 studies planned, including, I think, obviously these are oral drugs. They work very well. Obviously, the main thing will be, why don't we bring it in the front line? So those concepts are still, I think, behind, but coming along soon. So I think you will see much more data with these degraders, continue to see in the next 1 to 2 years, right? I think they're really a fantastic class of drugs which we have now.
That's amazing. Fantastic new advancements in the field of CLL. So you can read about this study, our on-site coverage of it in the pages of ASH Clinical News, including all of our on-site coverage here at the ASH annual meeting.